Welcome to the latest Lantern Lyceum. Thanks so much for being here today. Love to hear where you're joining me from here on the live stream. We do this once per month. That's the way that we kind of go through these particular live streams. They're more of a conversation, a chat around a certain specific topic. And this time around, we're talking about the idea of the retreat. And this is a good month for us to kind of dive into this sort of thing. So if you're joining us live, I'd love to hear where you're joining us from. Just say hello in the chat and let's engage in conversation around this concept of the retreat, which we'll be taking some time today to discuss. If you have any insights or thoughts that you want to bring up, please do. I try to make this more of a conversation than, let's say, a full-on lecture. And it does make the experience a lot more engaging when we have folks kind of contributing to the conversation. So now, to circle back to where we've been since we started doing these monthly lyceums, April, we kind of looked at this idea of friction. Okay. And you can, by the way, you can watch all of these through the Lantern, the Lyceum playlist. So you can see all the Lyceums that we've had to date. We haven't had too many as of this point, but you can check them all out. So number one, we looked at friction. That's in April. The hidden resistance in your days. Now in May, which would be last month, we looked at how the transactional model of time, basically this idea of time is money, it quietly works against you. Now, this time around, we're going to go into something a little deeper. So both of those previous sessions, they were pointing at the same thing, how we relate to time, the way we relate to time. This time around, we're going to talk about what it actually means to step back from it. So this is not, I want to talk about the idea of a retreat where it says stepping back with intention. Now, this isn't, I don't want you to think of a retreat as a destination, but more of a posture. It's a deliberate act of withdrawal. I mean, the term retreat would mean to, in a military sense, to step back, to move away from the conflict, from imminent danger, so that you can reassess and move forward, or move further back if you decide to completely withdraw. In this case, what we're talking about is this withdrawal from, say, noise, demand, external demands in particular, from the forward momentum that productivity culture treats as really only the valid direction, which is let's move forward. Constant, always, never stop, this hustle culture mentality, which again, and I've talked about this before, there's seasons for that, but we are human beings. If we want to tap into our humanness, we cannot keep going at a breakneck pace. The term breakneck is there for a reason. Now, the reason I'm pursuing this month is for multiple reasons. And first and foremost, in the Northern Hemisphere, we are heading into the summertime season. This month marks the beginning of summer, the actual beginning of it. June 20th is also known as World Productivity Day. And there's an interesting paradox there, because it's called World Productivity Day because it is the longest actual day of the year. So therefore, you can do more things. So I find that kind of interesting. But the other reason is we just finished a retreat inside of our Time Crafting Trust community called the Ready Retreat. And later this month, we're doing the Ready Return, which we're going to be doing publicly here for the first time. So you can make sure that you get notified about that live stream. That's coming up as I look here on the 17th of June. And I'd love for you to join us. You'll actually have some material to work with for that. And of course, we have the PDF today that you can use as well in conjunction with that. So that's the first. So I'm coming off of a retreat, but also in a few days, I will be heading off to Boise, Idaho for a conference, the KIT conference called Craft and Commerce. And I'm looking at that as a bit of a retreat as well. It's a learning retreat. It's active, but it is a bit of a getaway. And it's not obviously a complete getaway, but I do I do look at those as a form of retreat to a degree as well. So I'm kind of in between two worlds with retreats right now. I've just finished one and I'm heading into another. Figured this was a good time to kind of get into it. So let's move into what we're going to be talking about today. We tend to treat retreats as rewards. Since you work hard enough and long enough, eventually you get to have this kind of break. And I don't think of a retreat as a break necessarily either. The retreats that I take actually can be rather intense. And that's because retreats aren't a reward for the hard work. They're part of the work. It's not a trip. It's not a week off. Literally, I would say that that's the biggest problem in terms of the framing of this idea of a retreat. It's a reward. You get it because you've earned it. That is not the case. You just need, and you don't need to go on a trip or anything like that. Like, I don't need to go off somewhere to do a retreat. We literally, as I pointed out, did a retreat, a virtual 3-day, actually more like 5 days when you take into account the focus sessions that we do for them. We literally took several hours of a day over multiple days from the comforts of where we are, our home, like my study, whatever. So you don't have to go anywhere, but you just need to step back. And if you treat a retreat as a reward for hard work, then it puts it at the end of the effort, and it's not going to serve you as well. It's outside the work. It's contingent on having done enough. And that means most people feel that they've never really done enough to deserve one. I mean, think about it. If you've probably heard of a retreat before, or you've seen people go on retreats or describe them or what have you. And I know I felt this way, but in the back of your mind, like, well, I don't really need one. Or, well, the kind of work I do doesn't require one. That sort of thing. And I think a reframing will help you realize that a retreat, actually done properly, done well, can serve any calling, any vocation, any career. And so you need to stop thinking of a retreat as a reward for hard work. It's literally part of the work. If I go on a trip, I don't want to be working. I want to be completely removed from it as much as possible. And again, as a writer, there's always some kind of work going on in my head because there's a purpose behind it and so on and so forth. But there's an identity wrapped up in it. But there's a reason, for example, that, and yes, you could argue that this conference I'm going to next week is a work conference, so it's not so much of a retreat. But if I was going away or taking a retreat elsewhere, which I've done, I don't invite my partner and my kids or anyone to come along with me. That's not what it's for. So, this idea of the military origin of the word, again, to retreat is to withdraw in order to regroup. It's not really to surrender, but to reassess. It's a strategic move, and that's what we've lost. A retreat is not the same as rest. I've found that when I've done a really, really solid retreat, that I need a break when I get back from it. The deeper I've gone, the more challenging it's been. It's also revitalizing at the And there's a variety of ways you can do a retreat. I'm not telling you here how to do one necessarily either. I'm going to give you some guidance, and the PDF definitely will do that. And there's lots of ways to look. My friend Mike Schmitz has built some retreat forms. My friend David Sparks has done the same. And each of them has their own differences. The retreats that I do are built largely on the Ready retreat that I've shared with my community. I just do it all in one. I basically dedicate a day to each phase of this retreat, whereas we don't do it for as long of a time. But that's the point. And again, I want to stress that the other thing that people think about retreats that is a myth is that you actually have to go somewhere. You don't have to do that. I mean, I would argue that we've even gotten to the point where, because remote work exists now and a hybrid workplace exists now, you could, the idea to go somewhere might be more appealing because you might be working from home. But if budgetary concerns are there, and they've been there for me in the past as well, where it's like, look, I can't afford to go away on a retreat. I'm just going to close my door. I'm going to block off several days, and that's what I'm going to do with that time. You don't need to leave where you are. You just need to step back. So there are two kinds of retreats that I want to kind of go through. So there's retreat as place and retreat as practice. And this is important. So retreat as place is kind of like the getaway, the conference, like I talked about, the cabin. It's a physical removal from your normal environment. So this is what most people associate when they think of a retreat. It's, it's real and it matters, but it's not always available. So it's the place where you go isn't necessarily going to be available for you at any given time, which is also part of the reason why you may not retreat. Because if you can't go anywhere, then it's not really a retreat. So therefore I can't take a retreat, or I can't have a retreat. So we're going to break that, because retreat as a practice is where things get different. It's, a regular stepping back. It could even be a daily stepping back, to be honest. Journaling is and a reflective practice in some way, shape, or form is the form of a retreat. It's a small version of it. It's a lot like, and I remember reading the book Creative Quest by Questlove, and he talks about micro meditations. And we hear about these long, lengthy meditation sessions, but he would do like 30 seconds and just take some time. And you've probably heard of this too. I know when I've done some CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, the idea of box breathing, or like, those are forms of retreat. They're not as elaborate or as, let's say, explicit, but they can act that way. But it's this idea of stepping back that doesn't require an airfare or a hotel accommodation or a suitcase or any of that stuff. It's a protected period of time. Could be an hour, could be several hours, like we do in the Ready retreat, could be an entire day. We actually, later this month, inside the Time Crafting Trust community, we have what's called an IF day. And what IF stands for is immersive focus. And since not everyone in our community was able to do the Ready retreat live, let's say someone in the community is watching right now, that would be an ideal day to do the Ready retreat. If you have some other form of retreat, that's what that day could be for you, right? So it could just be an entire day. But there are different kinds of, like, a walk, leaving the house. Like, there are lots of different ways to retreat that don't have to be as elaborate, as deep, as place-oriented. Quiet mornings could be a form of a retreat for you. So there are two different ways to look at this. But regardless of how long you take, regardless of the method that you use, the thing that you need to take away is that the practice is what makes the place richer, not the other way around. And this parallel could be driven towards other things as well, like apps. If you're using an app for your productivity or your to-do lists or what have you, if that app goes away, you can always find another app. But what you bring to the app, your framework, your practice, All the app is a place for it to live. So people who know how to step back in a small way regularly, they're going to get more from it than the big, massive ones. And keep in mind, I think the other thing that's worth noting is when you do travel away for a retreat, and this is just a little bit of a sidebar, I think it's important that you also take in some of the place that you're going. We love novelty as humans, so if we are in a place that we've never been before, and sometimes we go to the same place, I've done that before as well, or some place that's familiar, but novelty does help because it breaks, it can break that spell, that pattern. And so I know that when I've done retreats where I've gone to a place, I have dedicated periods of time to do the work, and then I've dedicated periods of time to get out and explore what's around. And I've been fairly flexible with the amount of time in each of those parts. So because I've cleared my entire calendar. So you could be very, prescriptive and say, I'm going to spend 8 hours actively retreating and the remainder of my time exploring the area. Or you could divide it differently, or you could just play it by ear and take more frequent breaks. That's the great thing about a retreat is, again, it's that meshing of practice and place. And if you're doing it from your home, definitely leaving the home during periods of time when you are taking this form of retreat, big or small, is helpful because I can tell you that I've also noticed when I'm here doing a retreat inside of here, I will find other things to do to avoid the harder work that might be associated with the retreat. That's often why people will go away, is they won't get distracted. Right? So again, this immersive kind of experience, this practice is what you're looking for. And place can give it to you. Now, summer is a natural place. There's a permission to do this because, there is this propensity that things kind of slow down. You've got holidays happening. The weather is nice. So the pressure is typically lower. Lighter schedules, longer evenings, this kind of cultural exhale. But the kicker is that these kind of permission structures don't create the retreat. Intention does. So going back to what I was talking about off the top, if you can't break through the bias that retreats are not rewards, but they are for work, they are part of the work, you're going to have a really hard time with this permission season that we're in, this permissive season that we're in, because your intention is lacking. It's not supported by what you need. And I can tell you that we do this virtual retreat inside our community upwards of 3 times per year. And it is one of the more valuable aspects of our community because there is a regular cadence to them. In fact, when people are kind of mapping out what they plan to do, because that's what the Ready Retreat is really about, it's about getting ready for the season ahead, is they will actually use the next Ready Retreat as their boundary for how far ahead they'll plan. So that way, every time they do a Ready Retreat, they do this kind of seasonal mapping of sorts. So, you can have an annual retreat, you can have a semi-annual retreat, whatever you need to do, but there are ways to do it. You just need to recognize and break past that myth that, number one, it's not a reward for hard work. It is part of the hard work. And number two, you don't need to go anywhere to do it because it's the practice that brings everything to it. The place is just essentially a container for it. So what would a retreat look like for you for an hour? If you took an hour, just kind of do it, a morning, a day, a week, maybe every morning, a morning over the course of an entire week. What is interesting is that it's the combination, and this is what being productive is. Being productive is the active link between intention and attention, and that's how you make a retreat work well. Is your intention, and then the boundaries are essentially the framing. That's the attention. So if you are attending something like the Ready Retreat, those boundaries are built in for you. If you're doing it live, ergo, your intentions and attention are aligned. That's built in for you. If you do it on your own, and some in our community have had to do that, then you have to set up that boundary yourself. And there is a momentum to this kind of retreat process. So I would recommend that if you are going to look at a kind of retreat experience, that you try to make it as memorable, like as easy to latch onto for yourself as possible. So again, maybe the mornings over the course of an entire week. Could be, again, one entire week. It could be, I do this every Friday. And so it becomes this pattern, because the brain loves patterns. So you want to create a pattern for this. And that's really key. So to kind of get into the tail end of this, there is one of the biggest issues that a lot of people have is once they break through the bias of, all right, I don't have to just get a retreat when the work is done. It's part of the work. And then, oh, okay, I could do it from wherever. It's more about the practice. The next kind of roadblock or piece of friction is, okay, how do I do it? And so what I've done is, this is where this free resource comes in for you. So it's called the Retreat Map. And it's 6 ways to step back with intention and make the most of the space that you create. Because it's, again, if you think about what I've talked about, it's not just the time you set aside, but it's the space you create. So it's time and space. And John Cleese has this great talk about, in order to do truly great work, you need and he speaks about creative work. And there is a creative component to this. You need both time and space. If you have all the time in the world, but no space, like a container to hold it, then you're going to get drift. You will procrastinate. You will delay. If you have all the space in the world, but no time, it'll be rushed. And quality will suffer. Quality will suffer on both accounts, but you'll feel rushed if you have little time, but a ton of space. Plus, you'll try to figure out what space to put it in, which then delays, and so it's equal. There needs to be a balanced measure of time and space here. So let's talk about a couple of them here, and I've got them just to give you a sense of. Let's see here. So here's the retreat map here, and I've got it on my iPad. So you can see it's just a printout right here. So I'll go over a couple of the things. So let's start with the first one, the permission problem. Most people wait for external permission to step back. Say a deadline lifts, a season changes. Someone gives them a week off, but a retreat is something that you declare. It's not something that you wait for. So there's a thing to try here. Name one thing you've been waiting for permission to step back from, and then give yourself that permission now and write it down. I would print off this sheet, or, import it into some place where you could use I've got it in preview on my iPad, but you could use whatever you want, and you can make notes on it if you want. Let's move to a scale misconception. That's number 4. A retreat doesn't require a week, a flight, or a mountain. It requires a boundary and an intention. 20 minutes with the phone in another room can be a retreat if you treat it like one. And interestingly, inside our Time Crafting Trust community, we have what are called focus fix sessions, and we do them twice daily. weekdays. So there's an hour in each of those sessions where it's protected time. So you could use one of those if you're a member of the community or you become a member of the community. You could use those as a place to retreat, depending on your time zone, if it makes sense to you. So one of the things it says to try here is to design a micro retreat for this week. 1 hour, one boundary, one intention, no agenda. Start there. And then, of course, there's the re-entry problem is an interesting one. So that's number 5. Most retreats fail not in the stepping back, but in the return. And that's why we do the ready return here in June as well, because the return isn't just about coming back into the, quote, real world, but it's also about not losing sight of the things that you set, those intentions that you set during the retreat. That's what the ready return is mostly about, to make sure that you can course correct in case there's been some drift. And that's exactly what we talk about here. You come back and then it's immediately gone. So you come back into the world, and I've seen this happen before. I've been to events, conferences where you're immersed in the energy of the event. You're immersed in everything that's going on. And then you go back to, quote, the real world, and all of the sudden it's just as if you never left. And there was a conference in particular that I would go to regularly over a number of years in Portland, Oregon, called the World Domination Summit. And it happened. I went to almost all of them. And other than the last year, which was disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic, what I noticed is, and again, this is nuanced to a degree, because I can say that there were certain things I didn't take advantage of by going away. I would go into these events and say, oh, I'm going to definitely do this, and I come back and get caught up in things. But for the most part, I think I did a pretty good job of kind of carrying things over from that event. But I think there were a number of people that instead of it becoming a retreat, it became an escape. And that's different. It can be like role playing to a degree, I guess. This is the life I want to have, but I don't have it. So this will be what I do for this week. And then I'll go back and that's fine. That's fine. I mean, you could argue that Burning Man is like that to a degree, right? Because there are interesting things, and I'm sidetracking here, but there are things that you assume about people, and then when you find out the things that they enjoy doing or they like to do, again, Burning Man would be. There's lots of people I know that went to Burning Man that I would have no sense that would go to Burning Man. There are lots of people that went to this conference, the World Domination Summit, that I wouldn't say I was surprised because I got to know them, but it definitely didn't necessarily fit the work that they were doing outside of it. So whether you're in that category or whether you are immersed, I mean, that's one of the interesting things about going to this KIT conference, Craft and Commerce, is for that entire week, I'm going to be immersed in not only basically in the creator world, especially a platform like KIT that I use, which interestingly, right after I'm done here today, I have to correct something that happened with KIT so again, it just highlights the fact that I need to spend more time learning this. So that this immersive nature of that is I'm stepping back from everything else so I can immerse myself in that. But I'm there a little bit longer so I can carry over the residual effects of being in that space so I don't lose sight of it. And that's the thing. When you re-enter a retreat without a re-entry plan, it's just a pause. And pauses are fine. We need to take pauses. But a retreat is not a pause. Again, if it was, then the argument, the myth that the retreat is a reward for the work would be mostly accurate. But it's not. It's a stepping back. You're still engaged to a degree, but it's still part of the work. So it's not a pause as in again, it's not an escape. So the practice, part of the practice is, and this is why the practice matters more than the place, is protecting what happened during the retreat, making sure it's protected when you bring it back. So taking notes. One thing I actually think would be interesting to try, just thought about this, would be, and we have the technology, is to film yourself during the retreat process, like at the end of every day. I think, like, if you've been following my work for a while, you know that reflective practice is a big part of what I share. And I think that if you were to not just handwrite journals, because those are powerful, but there's something about the connection of the emotional component of when you're in that place and you're retreating, there's a presence there that you can really see with someone, and you could see it in yourself. So when you're on a retreat, maybe this is something to try, is at the end of the day, just make a short video of yourself, like a video journal, and how things are going and what you intend, and see that emotion. Like, you don't need to share it online. Just keep it to yourself. You could even just record the audio if you think that would work well. But that could be the thing to do that will help galvanize it, so that when you do come back, that you've got this greater sense of resolve to see it through. So you can get this retreat map. We have it, a link in the description, and we will also have it as, I think it's in the comments as well. But before we wrap up, don't want to do that. There we go. Before we wrap up, I want to share something with you that I think will be really powerful. So I'm just gonna make a quick change here. There we go. So I've been talking a lot about our Time Crafting Trust community here today in this particular Lyceum. And next time we'll be diving into, July, we've got another one planned. I'm looking forward to that. I've already kind of mapped it out. We'll make sure to get that up here on the channel so that you can make sure that you hit the notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss it. We do have the Ready Return coming up in a couple of weeks, which I would love for you to be part of, because it's essentially, it'll help kind of reinforce what I've talked about today. But another thing that I want to share with you is that this is also a really interesting and perhaps ideal time to find yourself with others, like-minded folks that are also looking to live a life of productiveness, to make sure that they're avoiding this concept of doing productive and are actually being productive. They're aligning their intentions with their attention. They're completing this action and reflection loop with a greater sense of, prudence. And what we decided to do, and Sarah's here in the chat as well, is for the month of June, up until World Productivity Day, I mentioned this off the top, World Productivity Day being a kind of an interesting paradox in terms of me talking about productiveness more than productivity these days. But the idea that we have more hours in the day, so we should get more done. I'm proposing that we should be getting more of the right things done. And I don't think that I'm alone in this. I just feel that after nearly 2 decades in this space, studying it, spending time with people, coaching, building a community, and we have a small but mighty community over in Time Crafting Trust, I think that we are in a time where this kind of work is needed more than ever. When we are dealing with things like generative AI and all of the good and the bad that comes with it, depending on what side of the fence you land on. And again, nothing is purely good or bad. There is nuance to that. And so what I want to share with you, and I think I've got it here, I'll paste it in the comments. Let's see if I can do that. Yep, there it is. So for the month of June, from June 1st, which is a couple days ago, to June 20th, so not the entire month of June, just till World Productivity Day, we are putting together an offer for $1 for the first month of Time Crafting Trust. So the regular price of Time Crafting Trust is $14 US per month, $99 a year, $30 a quarter, I believe, as of this recording. And this is a time of year where, as I mentioned, things are slowing down a little bit. There is more of a permissive nature to exploring things like this and exploring a community of like-minded folks and those that are really trying to, again, align their intention with their attention. So to give you a quick sense of what you would get inside of this community is you would get access to all of the courses that I have built. They are available. We have courses and workshops. There's a library of those. And we have exclusive courses that are for members only, as well as exclusive workshops, like the Ready Retreat. We also have monthly challenges. So every month we put together a challenge, and members take part in those challenges, and we ask for updates as they make their way through, and we have comments and discussions around that. We have weekly check-ins as well. So if you don't want to go as wide as the month, you could say, hey, this week I'm going to focus on this. So we do that as well. We look through the frames of time, and we understand, especially based on the ethos I talk about, that you're managing your relationship with time. You're not managing time. As I mentioned earlier, we have these co-working sessions, focus fix sessions, we call them, where you fix your focus on a particular task or set of tasks, projects. You might even incorporate things like your themes, if you're using daily themes or horizontal themes, like I just discussed earlier, into those sessions as well. We have 2 per every weekday. And the first Monday, every Monday, the first session, if you're looking at it from the North America, the Americans side of things, where we are, it is a 2-hour session. So there is upwards of 3 hours per every Monday where you can have focus and fix your focus on a particular set of tasks, projects, etc. We also have a monthly book club. Interestingly, this month, as we're going into June, we have chosen Cal Newport's Slow Productivity, which I think aligns nicely with this idea of the retreat. We get together once a month to discuss those. We have roundtables as well, where we go into discussions around time crafting and productiveness. We even have a monthly social as well, where we just get together with members of the community. We don't record that or anything like that. We just get to know each other a little bit better. And that's just for starters. Again, there's the Ready Retreat, as I mentioned, and there's the lounge. There's a variety of things in there that I think are really valuable, especially for just the regular price of $14 US per month. You get it for the first month for $1. Now, this is for new members only. So if you have been a previous Time Crafting Trust member, that it was a paying member, in other words, you were a full member, you didn't just have like 1 course or 2 courses, but you were a full member, you're not eligible for this offer. But if you're looking to explore this community for the first time, or you were a member of the community and you had like a course that you purchased, but you weren't a full member, now would be a great time to jump on that. So what happens is you'd pay the first $1 up front, and then when it's time for renewal, it will automatically renew at the monthly rate. You can always upgrade as well to quarterly or annual. You just have to reach out to myself or Sarah, and we can help facilitate that for you. And by the way, this is the most direct access you can get to me without paying for coaching. So I'm in those sessions. I'm in those focus fix sessions. I'm facilitating those workshops. I'm building those courses. And everything starts with that community. That's where a lot of the ideas for what to build come from. So I'd love for you to be part of that, especially as we head into this season where we should be more open to exploring new things, new ways of looking at things like a retreat, but also time, being productive, all of that. So again, I put the link in the chat. The link will also be in the description and in the comments as well. And thanks so much for taking the time to explore this concept of the retreat with me today. Again, I've got the Ready Return coming up a little bit later. I encourage you to check that out. And I encourage you to check out all of the videos that we have on this channel. Every Wednesday, for the most part, we do a live stream. I won't be doing one next Wednesday because I will not be here. But the next live stream that we do will, in fact, be the Ready Return. So I would love to see you there. Thanks so much for taking the time to join me here today for this latest Lantern Lyceum. And until next time, stop doing productive and start being productive. We'll see you later.